Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. We were talking before the break about an October surprise in the U.S. Election campaign. 8 days to go. The polls narrowing. We're going to talk about those polls as well. This after the FBI director went public last Friday with the fact that he had transmitted to lawmakers fresh emails found that regard Hillary Clinton. We're talking about it with former FBI agent Jack Clunan, who joins us from Scarborough, Maine. From Utica, New York, pollster John Zogby, sociologist Arlie Russell Hochschild is in Berkeley, California. Her latest book, Strangers in Their Own Land, Anger and Mourning on the American Right, where she spoke to people who've turned to Donald Trump in the Louisiana Bayou. And here in the studio, Jean-Éric Brana, whose own book about the Republican candidate is called Who Wants to Destroy the Republican Party? The Astonishing Donald Trump. Just before the break, we were talking about how, well, if there is a demise, it's of her own doing, said Jack Clunan. Jack, just one question for you, and that is what another former Secretary of State, Colin Powell, said, that he had a personal computer hooked up to a private phone line so he could communicate with a wide range of friends without it going through the State Department. And that basically, if you want to have a life when you're Secretary of State, well, you have to bend the rules a little bit. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think there is a distinction between what the two secretaries did. And the first one is that Colin Powell had a private email account and that he used for correspondence that was not related to U.S. government or his role as Secretary of State. Altogether different than what Secretary Clinton has done. Remember, the server was first orchestrated in Chappaqua, New York, and then held in a closet in a facility out in Denver, Colorado. So they're altogether different. Secretary Powell did not transfer information on his private email account that was classified. What we have now is what we've determined is that there has been classified information on an unsecure network maintained by Secretary Clinton. Much different circumstances.
All right, and now the question, how it all impacts the race. People who've been asked about it on the streets of the United States ahead of that November 8th election, well, they're as divided as the polls suggest.
It's not going to change my vote, so let's go Hillary.
Trump, he's just as bad by the statements that he makes, so I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but, you know, at least we need somebody in there that's going to be truthful.
We don't even know whether these latest emails will have anything whatsoever to do with this candidate.
Leave her alone. You keep bugging her about some damn emails. Leave it alone. She's still going to get elected, because I tell you one thing, if Donald Trump get elected, I'm moving back to Africa.
All right, have the emails impacted the race? 34% say that they were less likely to vote for Hillary Clinton. 63% say no difference. This according to a Washington Post ABC News survey. But as we said at the outset, the race is tightening. Several polls in key swing states like Florida have the race tilting towards Trump, and now it's all within the margin of error. There's the latest electoral map as spelled out by the news website Real Clear Politics. John Zogby, have you done the math since Friday?
I have, and basically we need to understand this race was already tightening and that we don't have any complete sampling since Director Comey's announcement. Within that context, though, that number you just revealed is somewhat misleading. You know, 34% less likely to vote for Hillary Clinton. 7% of those who were going to or leaning toward Hillary Clinton are less likely to support her. In a race that's down to 1%, between the two, that's a huge number. That means that those are 7% that are potentially taken right out of her column. That, in fact, can be devastating. There's a CBS poll as well in several of the battleground states that back up that same sort of number, about the relatively small percentage but meaningful percentage of Clinton supporters who now say that they're less likely to support her. But we don't know the full impact yet. Number one, it has to gestate, for 48 hours or so. And number two, we need a complete sample post Comey announcement, and those will be coming out either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
John, we were speaking earlier with our correspondent, Philip Crowther, who's been to a lot of the Rust Belt states, and he saw most people saying they weren't going to be voting for one of the candidates, but against one of the others. However, he did find that Trump supporters were more fired up. Could Donald Trump win the election?
Donald Trump can indeed win this election. Believe it or not, 2 weeks ago, he was out of it completely. And look, with 7 or 8 days to go, there could be another Trump tape as well, or there could be more revelations about Hillary Clinton. But fundamentally, we're at equilibrium right now, and there has been, just like in the very close election of 2000, the very close election of 2004, there's a gravitational pull that evens out this race between Democrats and Republicans, or should I say between Trump haters and Hillary haters. And that is a very important point. We have people that tell us, I will vote for the lesser of two evils, but I just haven't made up my mind which of the two candidates that is yet.
Arlie Rothschild, explain this to us, because I know you went to an area where you were telling us that people feel abandoned by government, abandoned by Washington. So we can get it for there. But when here in France, we look and we see your unemployment rate, your growth rate, we're wondering, why is it so tight? And especially what John Zogby described, the scandals over women that have plagued Donald Trump. Why is this race so tight?
Yes, well, you're right to ask that question. It's because of, given the people that I've really come to know, they feel very strongly that neither party has noticed them, spoken nicely about them, taken up their cause of protecting the blue-collar whites. They feel every other group has been taken care of, and that the federal government has been an instrument of the mobilization of others and the marginalization of them. And that's the main fact for them. So they've overlooked a lot. Early in this race, when they saw that Donald Trump was ridiculing women and Muslims and the wall, they were pulled. They actually didn't go for that. It's only with time, when he's come in as a charismatic leader and offering deliverance, that they've gotten swept up. And now I think everybody's not going to change their vote. I think they're set, and a certain hysteria of anti-Hillary has begun to set in.
Yeah, the top story on Politico.com's website this Monday sets perhaps the tone. It's almost over, headlines Eli Stokel's piece, which calls it a fateful slog between detested contestants. In it, he writes, as the contest between the two least popular nominees in American history enters its final, fittingly dispiriting stretch, the focus is on Clinton. That's bad news for her. Throughout this contest, the candidate dominating the headlines has been the candidate losing ground, Jean-Éric Brana. Is it going to be the same, by the way, in France next spring?
Sort of, yeah. It's not different, actually. We've got the same problem in France at the moment.
There is no yes, we can kind of candidate.
Exactly. And no candidate is able to say the story with that will be positive, that will make the people tend to vote for a particular candidate. This is exactly what was the case in the United States. And so the stupefaction is huge, looking at what had happened in the United States for a year. Neither Donald Trump nor Hillary Clinton was able to attract those blue-collar workers or the the average people, I would say. But Donald Trump was able to tell them that politicians are nasty, that it's not a good idea to vote for them because they're professional politicians. And the difference he's got with Hillary Clinton is that he's not a professional politician. And maybe this is the reason why he could win the election now. And I totally agree with John when he said, yes, indeed, he could win. He can win. He can be the winner. Maybe on the 9th of November, we will wake up with a new president called Donald Trump. What was just incredible 2 weeks ago, I was one of those who wrote Donald Trump has lost the election. It was for sure. And now everything has been split again.
And
There is a new game.
The news cycle is fickle. Do you agree, by the way, John Zogby, that they are the two least popular nominees in American history?
I was just doing my historical survey in my head. Certainly, at least since we've been able to do polling in the 1930s. But yeah, I can't recall, after having taught American history for 24 years, two candidates that have been so detested. In fact, just today in that ABC Washington Post poll, Hillary Clinton's unfavorables are 60%. Donald Trump's unfavorables are 58%.
All right. Let me ask you about this, Jack Clunan. You're in Maine. You're a former civil servant. What's the mindset when it comes to distrusting the system, distrusting the candidates where you are?
Well, I would agree with John and the prior guest. I mean, we have two candidates who are wildly unpopular and distrustful. We have two congressional districts in Maine, and the state is split. The second congressional district, up until 2 weeks ago, was solidly for Trump, and that's changed a little bit. And the first congressional district, where I reside, is probably still going to be Hillary Clinton. But I want to mention one other thing before we get off the air. We're talking about other shoes that could drop, other so-called surprises that might happen. We can't lose sight of the fact that we have two people right now, separate from Hillary Clinton, that may have some legal jeopardy. And that is, of course, Anthony Weiner, because there's a separate inquiry, and that's how we found out about these separate batch of emails. And then we have his wife. Now, stranger things have happened, but sometimes when people face the law in the Justice Department and they realize that they may be exposed, it's not uncommon for their attorneys to reach out to the Justice Department, or in this case to the Southern District of New York, where one of these cases is being investigated, and make a deal. And when people make a deal, boy, you don't know what's going to come out. Now, I realize it would be a jump here, but stranger things have happened.
And so what?
Speaking of jump, can I jump in there for a second?
Sure, John.
In Hillary Clinton's case, she can lose by winning. If she wins this election and it's more than a cloud, and as my colleague just said, one of those two, particularly Huma Abedin, her chief of staff for many years, decides to sing to save herself, Hillary could be under a cloud as a president-elect, let alone throughout her term as president.
Yeah, Jack Clunan, what would happen in that case if suddenly the accusations come out between Election Day and Inauguration Day?
Well, that's what everybody is anticipating, and I think that's why the Hillary Clinton and her campaign are putting pressure on Director Comey to speed this up and to make a statement and clarify what he said to Congress. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, some of the committees in Congress have already said that they're going to, reignite, if you will, some of these inquiries, whether it's Benghazi or whether it's this, that, and the other thing. So, as John correctly points out, you will have, if Secretary Clinton wins, she'll be limping into the White House. We want, all of us in this country want our government to function and function well. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here as apolitical, and I'm telling you, quite frankly, I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I'm not enthused about anybody. If it were up to me, I'd write in George Mitchell's name, the former senator and majority leader in the Senate from Maine. I think he's wonderful. So, it's very perplexing for all of us. And to be frank, it's very disappointing. I wish we had better choices. So I'm echoing my colleague in Berkeley. I'm echoing John, whatever he might feel. We're all betwixt and between. And I honestly believe everybody that in my orbit just says, can't we do better?
All right, lots of reactions coming in. This one from on the hashtag F24 debate. I don't know what's uglier, Wiener and the mess, or the Democrats trying to cover for Hillary Clinton. Again, that sense that there is a cover-up. One thing I wanted to bring up before we go, you mentioned how there was this turnaround, Arlie Russell Hochschild, in those people that you went to see in Louisiana. They saw Donald Trump appear a little bit more presidential, you said, during as the campaign unfolded. He is somebody who's called Clinton a nasty woman. We have a former Miss Finland who brings to 12 the number of women coming forth with allegations of sexual harassment against the Republican nominee. Do they really think he looks more presidential?
Yeah, no, I don't think they think he looks presidential, but they're counting it as a plus that he doesn't. That he's the outsider, the guy who's different from other politicians. So that minus turns into a plus. But no, many of them are ambivalent about him and appalled by, a lot of his behavior. But you know what? I think whoever wins this election, we will have a huge job of healing this nation. And here I'm echoing my colleague from Maine. And we've moved into two entirely different political enclaves, political bubbles. And we need to get ways through our schools and through our churches and through our unions where people on opposite sides come together with goodwill, kind of drop your political alarm system for a little while, listen to the other side, really restore civility. And
why isn't there that civility anymore?
Yeah, well, because feelings have been whipped up into, such an extraordinary extent, and people have felt not seen, not addressed. Both parties have missed the boat in really addressing the issues that are making people anxious, economic issues and social cultural ones. People feel not seen and denigrated, and that has to be turned around. But we need a people-to-people as well as leader-to-leader kind of whole movement of healing after this election.
John Zogby, the system as it's right now set up in the United States with your really long campaigns and the Electoral College and all of these things, is it built for listening?
Well, it can be, and it should be, and it always was. There are 50 states and a lot of real estate to cover, and so it's a good thing that candidates need to have some time and need to set foot in as many of those states and be visible among as many people as possible. But the difficulty is that the center is gone from the American political discourse. There's a whole variety of reasons for that, not the least of which is cable news that has taken decided ideological bases for its audience, as opposed to trying to achieve a common denominator of viewership and listening.
Part of it, Jean-Éric Brana, and we saw it with the vote on Brexit, is this hearkening back to a golden age with voters.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the United States because there are several levels of elections, and the down levels will push forward the movement in one particular way. I don't know which way, but it's not like the Brexit, because we know that the polls are giving not the truth, but the right direction. I had one question for John, if it's possible, or I don't know if we
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. Because there is, you asked him if he counted, if he was okay with the math. I've done the count also for what may happen on the 8th, and there is one possibility, is that for each side we would have 269 for the electors. That would be a total nightmare, huh?
Well, we're not at that point yet. There is also something else, which is there are a lot of other races that are being decided, most notably the Senate, the House of Representatives, and we see that all of that now is up in the air. I guess another question, and I'll put it before we go to our panel, and most notably to Arlie Russell Hochschild, which is, why weren't there other candidates that came forward when the primaries began?
Everyone that I interviewed initially was for somebody else, and they got knocked aside. Most of them were for Ted Cruz or for Marco Rubio, Carson. These were the first three that people talked about, but they didn't make it, and nobody was for Bush initially, of the people that I came to know, generally blue-collar, white, older, Louisiana. And so he was like their second choice, but then what they liked was his unstoppability. He was a strong man. That became the plus for them.
All right, so the hunger for a strong leader. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Arlie, from Berkeley. I want to thank Jack Clunan for being with us from Scarborough, Maine. John Zogby from Utica, New York. I also want to thank Jean-Éric Brana. Stay with us. Our Media Watch segment is next. And we say hello to James Creedon.
Hi, François. It's a scary day today, a Halloween evening. And
scary for the Democrats.
Scary for the Democrats. It's been quite a scary few
But the
months.
news cycle can change. It can get scary for the Republicans.
It can indeed. It's an unpredictably scary time. In any case, let's take a look at some of the headlines. Trump has already won Halloween, says this headline in the Courrier International. They have a funky little cartoon there as well of Donald Trump in pumpkin form. And there's an interesting piece in the Boston Globe, which is pointing to the fact that Halloween mask sales have tended to accurately predict the election since 1996.
No.
Some estimates say going back as far as 1980. Essentially, the candidate with the best-selling mask has gone on to win the presidential election since 1996. Now, that's not necessarily the biggest kind of period of history. Perhaps it's not a very reliable indicator at all. But in any case, there was a recent poll as well with 2,000 adults, and the top reason people said they were dressing up as Trump was to be funny, while the top reason people were dressing as Clinton was because they like her. Now, of course, there's all sorts of spin-off possibilities as well. People going to parties as nasty women and as bad hombres. What does that say about their positioning vis-a-vis candidates? Perhaps not a huge amount. Anyway, I look at a couple of other headlines. Breitbart.com, which is, of course, virulently pro-Trump. They've come up with this snappy slogan, Halloween Hell. And indeed, I suppose that does quite sum up the last...
Like the orange.
The last few days for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Donald Trump, of course, also having a lot of fun with the serious difficulties of the Clinton campaign since the latest email thing. And here you can see some suggested costumes, obviously with a heavy dose of anti-Hillary bias. What else do we have? Halloween, well, that's what I was saying there. So the facts, as recounted in that Boston Globe article about the highest selling mask since 1996 has predicted the election. Those facts are being spun by, I would say, pro-Trump Twitter users who are going on to say, well, right now Trump masks are leading Hillary by 30%. I can't possibly see how that would have been accurately assessed or polled, but you have that sort of spin on on social media. This is a cartoon in the Independent in the UK, and you have an image of, I suppose, Mr.
Comey,
right?
The FBI, yeah.
Arriving as a sort of an unwelcome trick-or-treater, Shay Clinton. And here we have somebody else with a cartoon that, of course, picks up on the FBI investigation and, hits, again, not very flattering. So, in any case, you do have hashtags.
Not very.
No. Hashtags such as Hillary for prison. Now, that is obviously being mostly used by those who are critical of Hillary Clinton. But here it's being used, I think, to try to get the attention of those who are only reading pro-Trump media, to actually give some facts about the Hillary emails story. For example, the fact that Hillary Clinton used hard copy dispatches for all classified information, and she did not use the .gov system for classified communication because it was what's seen as unwieldy. So these are facts that are just conveniently omitted from the coverage.
This is interesting because we always talk about how now the social media has become an echo chamber where you only speak to one side.
Right.
So here you're saying that people reaching out to the other side using their hashtag.
Right, so somebody who might have gone Hillary for, even though there's actually a misspelling in that hashtag, it's Prision, so I'm not sure the strategy worked very well. But generally speaking, it's a way of getting your message through the echo chamber system, I suppose, of people only being surrounded with their own sort of points of view. Anyway, I think we can finish on this. Folks, you want to see something truly scary this Halloween? Well, actually just the presidential election as a whole, really. It's not we don't need to limit it to 24 hours. It's been quite the roller coaster few months. And I think, a week to go?
All right, more scary tales to come.
Indeed.
November 8th is the date. Many thanks for that, James Greedon. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.